Welcome back to another episode of Dreaded and Abroad. I'm your gracious host, Kemo, Sace. And on this episode,
we'll be talking about our
failed
home birth. I'm Alexis. I'm Mars' mom and Marvel's girlfriend. I actually found out I was pregnant September 13th, surprisingly. It was actually on a Friday. I was very surprised and kind of freaked out. We had a full weekend planned. We had family coming in town for a tailgate, Redskins tailgate party. So I was more focused on that, but also freaked out that I was pregnant, or at least the test came back positive. And my initial thought was I need to talk to Marvel, who was having a guys' night. So he was already kind of turned up. So this was not the news he was expecting at, I don't know, it was like 1:30 a.m. on a Friday night. And so he was shocked and took another shot. This one he poured, not the three that I already had poured that he took. Initially, I knew I wanted to work with midwives and have as close to a natural birth as possible. We had both done research on the way childbirth happens in America and how it happens internationally, and the rates of African American women dying during childbirth in hospitals. So we were weary about going into hospitals, having a hospital birth. So that's why midwives came into play. We initially found out we were pregnant, you know, being that we're both over 35 with all the genetic testing and different things like that. We didn't have a lot of time to do a lot of research on home birth providers. So we went to a seminar at GW, George Washington Hospital, which has a separate midwifery department, as well as, you know, the usual obstetrician and gynecology. And we decided to work with them since they are able to, you know, give you a midwife-driven natural birth, but in a hospital, and we liked the vibe there, so we had agreed that that was the right place, and so that's what we were planning on doing.
So if I haven't told you by now, we're not having a baby in a hospital. We're having it at a birthing center, and we want to be able to feed our birth team, so we use mentals.meals as our catering service. This is one of the shrimp bowls. Yeah, they look friggin' amazing. We'll taste one. Oh my goodness. Oh my God, that's good. Oh, that's bursting with flavor. We prepared for a very smooth birth. We mentally prepared for a very smooth birth. We took courses and classes for a very smooth birth. We were studying what was called the Bradley method. The Bradley method puts a lot of onus on me. It gives you the mind state that you, me, is the coach, and the pregnant person is the athlete. And as the coach, you make sure your athlete's in tip-top shape.
We were in training for 12 weeks, 2 hours per week leading up to the delivery date. Labor started on May 11th, which was on a Monday, the day after Mother's Day. We weren't officially due until May 20th. So that was about 9 days early. But again, we've been in classes since the beginning of March. We've been working with our doula since February. So we felt like, you know, we were ready. And labor started Monday morning. I don't remember how far along contractions were. They were far enough along where it wasn't nowhere near time to go to the hospital. So we labored at home until Tuesday morning, when the contractions were further apart and more painful. I didn't sleep at all that Monday night, actually, because the contractions were pretty painful.
Lex is having contractions. They are 4 minutes apart, and they're lasting about a minute to a minute and 30 seconds apiece. We're headed to the birth center for an evaluation. If they deduce that she's in active labor, we stay and have the baby. If she's stalled in pre-labor, they're going to give us some Ambien and send us home. But we have to go because the intensity of everything has kicked way up. Oh man, I'm taking you with me.
I think Marvell may have gotten 2 hours of sleep that night, and that was it. But Tuesday morning is when we made the call to the midwife and the birth assistant, as well as gave our doula. Her name is Lauren. Lauren was awesome. We gave her a heads up that we're, contemplating going to the hospital today. But before all that, let me back up. We actually switched healthcare providers midway through, thanks to the COVID scare. GW started changing their policies, so we ended up switching over to birth care in Alexandria. Since they had a relationship with GW, some of the midwives there knew them and recommended them, and they didn't have the same restrictions that GW had in regards to the coronavirus, meaning that, as you guys know, with the coronavirus, it became a lot of limitations on who could attend your birth and different things like that. Hospital policies were constantly changing, and it being my first child, I really wanted my support network there that we had been planning on for the last 7 months. Being that GW was only allowing Marvell to be there, we was not going to be able to have our doula there, my mom or my sister, and that was, at the time, was a deal breaker for me. So in March, we ended up switching to childcare in Alexandria. We were planning on having our birth there, which is a birth center, unlike a hospital. So a lot of the amenities that you have at a hospital, you do not have at a birth center. Birth center is essentially a home birth. They provide you a bedroom and a kitchen and a bathroom to give birth in, the same as you have at your own home. When we got to the birth center, we ended up finally going around 6 p.m. Tuesday night. The contractions were further apart, were closer together, and the pain was unbearable by that time.
Oh. Oh. Get anything out of this bag? Yeah, give me that. Oh. 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 Oh.
When we got to birth care, they checked my dilation and all those factors. I think I was less than 3 centimeters dilated because there was a conversation whether or not I wanted to go home and continue to labor there, because ideally with our birth plan, we weren't supposed to go to the birth center until we were in active labor, which is 7 centimeters or above. And I wasn't even close to that. So I think I was between 1 and 3 centimeters. Again, I was in a lot of pain, and we didn't want to go back home because of the pain and because we wasn't sure how long it would take for things to progress further. And so it just so happens while we were having this conversation, my water broke.
I was ecstatic because it was the 12th, and it was late. It was around 6 to 7 p.m. or something like that, which means that the baby was going to be born on the 13th, which is my favorite number, and it's also the day that I guessed that the baby was going to be born.
She blew up the tub. We tried laboring in the tub. That didn't help at all. We tried a lot of different things. My doula was there, Mom, Marvell, the birth assistant, and the midwife. I
mean, she labors all through the night. Sun is up, sun goes down, sun comes back up. Nothing but extreme labor pains all night. She did get one hour nap when she agreed to take some Nubain that was authored by the birth center, because if she goes into full labor this exhausted, it ain't gonna do nothing but stall, and we just gonna be looking around, looking at each other, looking crazy.
Wednesday morning, the midwives ended up rotating out, and one of the older senior midwives came in. And when she checked my cervix, you could tell she wasn't completely sure I was 10 centimeters, but seeing how much pain and how far apart the contractions were, and it kind of looked like I was 10 centimeters, I guess, she said I was 10 centimeters too.
That means progress. She looked at me and said, that means progress, right? And then this look came over her face, and she was like, let's have this baby. And they was like, yes, because now when you push, you're pushing the baby. Let's have this baby. I was like, that's the Lex I'm looking for. So she pushed, every contraction, she pushed it. Nothing happened, nothing.
We were presented with the option to go to the hospital because we're going into day 3 of labor, and nothing's happening while I'm pushing.
And then she finally reached her pain threshold. And I heard it in her voice. She said, "I want to transfer."
Sometimes plans change.
At that exact moment, everything kind of like washed over me as to what we were doing. We were giving birth to a baby. We were bringing life into this world. When she asked for the transfer, it kind of broke my spirits a little bit. Like I get emotional looking at the videos of it, and it broke my spirits because I thought she was giving up on me. I thought everything that we worked so hard for to get to this natural birthing stage was all for nothing. I looked around, her mama was there, her doula was there, the midwives were there, her father had just rode in. Other than Alexis and her parents, nobody was there for me. And I'm just being like this emotional rock this whole time. And when I looked in her eyes and realized she was ready to go to the hospital, I tried to fight it as much as I could, but I broke. Like, I started crying right next to her. And I tried to jump out and run out the room as fast as I could, and I did.
Can we transfer, please?
And I go into the bathroom to gather myself, and I'm like, this is just fatigue. You've been up for a few days. You didn't sleep, you haven't been eating. You're just tired, get yourself together. I looked in the mirror and I was like, I got this. And I cried like a baby. Boo-hoo cried. And because the only thing I could think of was once we get to this hospital, they're gonna cut her open. And the math is simple. Either 2 walk in and 3 walk out, or 2 walk in and 2 walk out. Like, these were the only options because this is major surgery. And the hospital is nothing but, in my opinion, is nothing but a conveyor belt. They want cookie cutter, they want free beds, they want you in, they want you out. And so I finally gathered myself, and we hopped in the car and we transferred to GW. And as soon as we get there, it's everything that I knew it was going to be.